Ever stop and think about what a hit song sounded like way before Spotify, before the radio, before any kind of recording at all? I mean, we're talking about 500 years ago. Well, let's get into it, because the music of the Renaissance wasn't just old-timey tunes. It was a total game changer that, believe it or not, still shapes the music you love today.
Right? It's a fantastic question. So back between the 1400s and the 1600s, Europe was in the middle of this massive cultural rebirth called the Renaissance. And just like art and science were getting a huge update, music got a complete makeover too. As people's whole worldview started to shift, so did their taste in music, and composers were itching to create something brand new.
So how big of a change are we talking about here? It was enormous. This wasn't just about a few new instruments or different melodies. No, this was a deep, fundamental shift in the whole point of music, and it was all driven by a new way of thinking about what it even means to be human.
To really get it, just look at the contrast. In the Middle Ages, music was almost 100% for worship. It was formal, it was grand, and it was aimed right at God. But then, during the Renaissance, the camera kind of zooms in on us, on people, on our feelings, our experiences, our emotions. Music, for the very first time, was getting personal.
Now, the engine behind this whole change was a movement called humanism. And all that really means is that people started celebrating human life, our achievements, our potential, right here on Earth. Artists and composers started to feel that what people think and feel was just as worthy of a song as religious ideas were.
And this new philosophy totally remixed how music was made. Composers started trying to make the music actually sound like the words being sung. They wrote songs about love and nature, not just holy texts. Music also became a stage for composers to show off their unique talent. But here's the key. Music was now being built from the ground up to make you feel something.
Okay, so the style of music was changing, but what about the venue? Where were people actually listening to all this new stuff? Well, music was breaking out of the cathedral and finding some brand new places to hang out.
The church was still a major player, for sure, making up about 40% of where music happened. But what's truly revolutionary is that the other 60% was happening somewhere else. The royal courts of kings and nobles became these huge hubs for music, and, get this, regular people started making music in their own homes, just for the fun of it.
So this really split music into two main categories. You had your sacred music for church, still in Latin and meant to sound awe-inspiring and heavenly, but then you had secular music, which just means non-religious. This was the music for entertainment. It was sung in Italian or English or French so everyone could understand it, and it was about real-life things like love, nature, and parties.
And in those royal courts, music became a serious status symbol. I mean, having the best band and the best composers on your payroll was like having the fastest sports car today. It was a total power move, a way for a prince or a duke to show off just how rich and cultured they were to all their rivals.
Now, for all this new music to really take off, it needed a tech revolution. It needed a way to go viral, 15th century style. And boy, did it get one.
Okay, so before about 1440, every single piece of sheet music had to be copied by hand. Can you imagine that? It was painfully slow, super expensive, and probably full of mistakes. Then, Johannes Gutenberg's printing press arrives and just changes everything. Suddenly, you could mass-produce music.
The impact of this was just staggering. It's night and day. Music went from being this rare, luxury good that only the wealthiest could afford to something that was way more accessible and affordable for a lot more people. You could say this was the birth of the music business. This technology just unlocked so much. A composer in Italy could now become famous in England. Amateur musicians could actually go out and buy their own songbooks to play at home. And because everything was printed, the way music was written down became standardized, so everyone was literally reading from the same sheet. Musical ideas could spread like wildfire.
All right, so we know why the music changed and how it spread, but what did it actually, sound like? What were the key ingredients that gave Renaissance music its signature sound?
Okay, if there's one word you need to know from this whole thing, it's this one: polyphony. This was the absolute defining sound of the era. Instead of just having one main melody, composers got really good at weaving multiple, independent melody lines all together into this rich, complex tapestry of sound. Here's a good way to picture it. Imagine you have a vocal group with 4 people. Each person is singing their own unique, beautiful melody. But when you listen to them all at once, their separate parts magically blend together to create one incredible, harmonious sound. Every single voice is its own star, but they sound even better together. That's polyphony.
Composers also got really clever with a technique called word painting. This was basically a way to make the music literally act out what the lyrics were saying. It was this really cool, expressive trick to bring the story of the song to life.
So for example, if the lyrics talked about running down a hill, the melody line itself would actually run down the scale. Or if a singer sang the word sighing, the composer might write a long, drawn-out note that sounds like a sigh. It's a really smart way to connect sound directly to emotion.
Of course, it wasn't all just singing. The instrumental toolkit was getting bigger too. The lute, which kind of looks like a pear, was basically the acoustic guitar of its time, super popular for playing at home. You also had viols, which were like the ancestors of the violin and cello, plus recorders and early keyboards like the bright-sounding harpsichord.
So I know, this all happened hundreds of years ago. You might be wondering, why does this matter to me? Well, the reason we're talking about it is that the breakthroughs of the Renaissance didn't just disappear. They actually laid the groundwork for almost all of the Western music that came after.
And yeah, the era had its own rock stars, composers who were famous all over Europe. You had Josquin des Prez, who was an absolute genius with that complex polyphony we talked about. There was Palestrina, whose sacred music was so clear and beautiful it basically became the gold standard for church music. And then in England, you had guys like Thomas Morley, writing these super catchy secular songs called madrigals. They were the pop hits of the day. The legacy from this time is just massive. The whole idea of chords and harmony that is the foundation of music today, it really got started here. The system of writing music down that we still use, it was perfected during this time. Those small bands playing in the courts, they were the seeds that grew into the modern orchestra. And maybe biggest of all, the idea that music is something for everyone to enjoy. That's a Renaissance idea.
You can really see this shift pretty clearly. In the Middle Ages, music basically had one job: worship. Then the Renaissance comes along and blows that wide open, adding entertainment and social status into the mix. And from there, it just kept expanding, leading us to today where music does everything. It's art, it's commerce, it's personal expression, it's celebration.
So the next time you're listening to your favorite playlist, just think about it for a second. When a sad song uses slow, low notes, or a really happy song has a melody that feels like it's lifting up, you're hearing an echo of the Renaissance. You're hearing an idea that's over 500 years old, that music's greatest power is to capture exactly what it feels like to be human.